My name is Beth Nash, and I am a test measurement specialist here at NCDPI. I spend the majority of my day with middle school and high school math and science, but I am also here to support our metametrics work with Lexiles and Quantiles. We appreciate you joining with us today. NCDPI partners with Metametrics to provide Lexile and Quantiles for our end of grade and end of course tests. Through this partnership, teachers across the state have free access to a wonderful resource called the Lexile and Quantile Hub. The Hub is a one-stop shop where teachers can find lots of resources to support learning both in and out of the classroom. And did I mention that it's totally free? In a moment, I'm going to turn it over to our Metametrics team to show you how to access the Hub and what resources are included. As our friends go through the presentation, they will be adding links into the chat that you can click on. If you do happen to have any questions, please send those questions over to everyone so that we have a better shot of making sure that we are able to address your questions today. Everyone is muted due to the size of the webinar. As of last night, we had a little over 200 folks signed up for this one. You probably it looks like you're in there by yourself, and that's just a setting within WebEx. We are recording, and the recording will be sent out via email probably tomorrow. It takes a bit for the system to process that. The recording will be able to be shared with anyone, and we will also post it to our website. When that email is sent to you, it will also contain copies of all the links that the Metametrics team shares with you today. And NCDPI is not offering any CEs for participation in the webinar today. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Matt, Kate, and Dave. Thank you so much for joining us today, and the floor is yours. I'm going to go to Matt first.
Thank you so much, Beth, for that introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. We're so excited to share what we think are some great tools to help you begin to differentiate instruction and also monitor student progress toward college and career readiness. I'm going to share my screen here. All right, let me get this stuff slid out of the way so you guys don't have that clogging things up. Thank you so much for being with us again. My name is Matt Copeland, together with Dave and Kate, and also Jane, who you see on your screen, but who is not with us today because she is traveling. We are the professional learning team here at Metametrics. All four of us are former classroom teachers, instructional coaches, curriculum leaders. We may have a district administrator in here in the bunch as well. But we've all sat in seats and worn shoes very similar to the ones that you all are in now. We hope you had a great start to the school year. I know for many of you there in North Carolina, your eyes are on the sky. You're watching the weather pretty closely with what's going on and maybe coming your direction. Please know that we're thinking about you all and wish you all the best getting through that. We are scattered across the country. Dave and myself are both here in our home state of Kansas, and Kate is joining us from the great state of Illinois. So we represent a wide range of classroom experience, building experience, district experience. We're all here, though, to help you get the absolute most out of Lexile and Quantile measures. So a quick overview of our next less than an hour here as I'm talking away. Very, very quickly, we'll review Lexile and Quantile measures. What are they? Where are you getting them? Why are they important? And then we'll get right to what Beth introduced so well, which is the Lexile and Quantile Hub. Make sure that you all understand what you need to do to get that free access so that you can work with all these wonderful tools that you have right there at your fingertips. Again, provided to you completely free of any cost by the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction. Very quickly, I'll give you just a very short explanation of where our support is located within the hub for when you do encounter problems or have questions. And we'll talk about quickly what we call our quick start guides, which are handouts basically, that provide a very quick start to getting started with each of the individual tools. And then I'll turn things over to Dave and Kate, and we'll actually demo some of the individual tools that we decided these are the tools that are most applicable to classroom teachers and administrators at the elementary level. On the Lexile side, we'll take a look at the Find a Book tool and the text analyzer. On the Quantile side for mathematics, we'll take a look at the Math Skills database and also the Quantile Teacher Assistant. And then at the very end, we'll talk about one tool that has parallel forms, one for Lexile, one for Quantile, and that is our grade level charts that help us to begin to understand how an individual student may be performing in comparison to the quote unquote average or quote unquote typical student at that particular grade level. So let me begin. I call this my 2-minute drill if you're a football fan. I try to cover this in 2 minutes or less. But a quick review for anybody who needs a refresher or anybody who needs some just basic foundational information. What are Lexile and Quantile measures? I will start with the Lexile framework for reading. And basically what makes Lexile measures unique, and the very same thing is true of Quantile measures as well, is that we are a scale. We measure not only the ability of a student, but we also measure on that same scale the difficulty of material. And what that allows us to do is to begin to make some comparisons between how well does a child read and how difficult is the book or the piece of text that we're asking that child to sit down and read. So as you see here in this example, imagine that we have this young lady on the left who has a 770 Lexile reader measure. You always know a Lexile measure because it has a capital L at the end of it. And let's imagine that she sits down to read a 770 Lexile measured book. In this case, Sharon Creech's Walk to Moons. What that suggests to us, because the numbers match 770L on both sides, is that this is a perfect book for this child to read independently. In other words, she's going to find enough familiar vocabulary, enough simple sentence structure to make her reading comfortable, but yet enough new vocabulary and enough new complex sentence structure to continue growing her skills over time. Now, what we know is that in any given classroom, you have a wide range of student Lexile reader measures. It's not uncommon to see from your lowest reading student to your highest reading student a range of 800 Lexiles or 1,000 Lexiles, and differentiating our instruction and differentiating the materials that we offer that child can be a great way to not only meet students where they are, but help ensure that they're growing moving forward. The Quantile framework for mathematics is very, very similar. Same basic concept. Again, the same scale used to measure both student ability, this time in mathematics, and the difficulty of a lesson, of a worksheet, of a math video, of an online game, whatever that math material might be. In this case, you see a young lady with a quantile measure of 840Q. That represents not only her understanding of the conceptual reasons behind mathematics, but also her ability to actually utilize and calculate and do all those things that I'm sure Dave will correct me later that I said this wrong. But also on the materials side, we can measure the difficulty of a particular piece of material. Here I just have an example of a math problem. We can use that quantile scale to measure that difficulty. And so again, the concept here is we have some understanding of what material on the mathematics scale a child is ready to learn. And there is one distinction between the Lexile and Quantile frameworks, and that is on the Quantile side, it's not independent like it is in reading. Like I told you, that child should sit down, read Sharon Creech's Walk Two Moons on her own and probably be pretty good. But on the quantile side, if this child's sitting down to complete this math problem, we are assuming that a highly effective mathematics instructor is right there beside her to provide that basic instruction and help her with that. So the Lexile framework is calibrated for independence. The Quantile framework is calibrated for instruction. And that is the key component of how the two frameworks are different. Okay, so you may be asking yourself, well, where do I get these Lexile and Quantile measures? These sound really kind of cool. Well, you may be getting them from a variety of different sources. As Beth said, there in the state of North Carolina, all of your end of grade, most of your end of course assessments are linked to the Lexile and Quantile scale. So in addition to getting the scale scores from those state assessments, you also are receiving a Lexile and Quantile measure for each student as well. Additionally, there are a variety of different interim benchmark assessments that also report a Lexile and Quantile measure. So if your district or your building is using something like iStation or Imagine Math or Scholastic Read 180, you may also be getting Lexile and Quantile measures from those locally administered assessments as well. And I believe Dave and Kate will put the links to that complete list. There are far too many for me to go through to provide those. And then additionally, there are some instructional programs that also report our measures as well. So maybe you all are using in your classroom something like a Achieve 3000 or some of the other instructional programs. Many of those, if they include little snippets of assessment at the same time, can also give you a student Lexile or Quantile measure as well. But as I said, all of the end of grade, all of most of the end of course assessments there in the state of North Carolina have these measures attached to them. Very quickly, if you're looking at those individual student reports, you'll notice this is an example of a reading report. Down here in the bottom right corner of this, you'll see kind of highlighted in yellow. That's where you would find the Lexile measure for that particular student. The math report, it's located in the same place. I didn't bother to include that here. Obviously, it would be a mathematics report. And down here in the bottom right corner, it would say quantile. But ultimately, to wrap this little segment up, value and utility of Lexile and Quantile measures. Why do we care? We understand what they are. We even understand where we might, but why are they important? Well, these measures allow us to do a number of pretty things. You'll see here in this list, first of all, they allow us to target our instruction to our individual students' abilities. And again, it provides us this opportunity to begin to realize that dream of differentiating our instruction for, if not individual students in our classroom, but different groups of students. So we can begin to tailor what we are doing with different students to their individual or group needs. The other advantage, or another advantage of these measures, is that they really help us to promote growth and our progress monitoring of students. Again, because Lexile and Quantile measures come from a variety of different assessments, you can actually use them to monitor growth over time. And what is really important about that concept, although it probably doesn't come into play as much at the elementary level as it does your colleagues at the middle and high school level, is that they become really important monitors of tracking growth toward individual careers. because the same scales that we use to measure books and the same scale that we use to measure math materials, we can also use to measure careers. So if a child says to you, I want to be just like my mom, I want to be an electrician when I grow up, we can actually point to the Lexile measure and the Quantile measure of a first year electrician. What are they asked to do? At what level are they expected to read and engage in mathematics? And then finally, the last point here, these measures allow us to communicate student achievement more effectively. As you all are well aware, seemingly every assessment that's out there has a different scale. And it becomes kind of like an alphabet soup of numbers and what those numbers mean. But if they also report a Lexile and a Quantile measure, there is a single scale. You at once, and as long as that assessment is reporting that Lexile and Quantile, you have a way to understand how is my student performing on this assessment compared to other students, compared to other assessments, whatever the question may be. Okay, so very quickly, let me cut to the chase and let's talk about the star of the show. And as Beth said again, this is the Lexile and Quantile Hub. And what you may want to do as we get started here is if you have multiple screens, you may want to open a browser on another monitor, and you may want to go directly to the hub itself. And that address is hub.lexile.com. So if you're like me, if you're not a good multitasker and you'd rather just watch and then do this all later, that's perfectly fine too. And it's so great that Beth is recording this for us so that you can come back and remind ourselves of some of this information at a later date. But very quickly, when you do visit the Lexile and Quantile Hub, whether that is right now as I'm talking or a little bit later, the very first thing that you're going to want to do is register. And you see the purple register button in the top corner of your screen. And when you register, it's really important that you use your school email address because it's your school email address that allows us to verify, yes, this person is an educator in the state of North Carolina. They get all the bells and whistles. They get premium access to these tools, again, at absolutely no cost because North Carolina Department of Public Instruction has partnered with us to provide that for you. You may notice that educators in other states may not be as lucky. Unfortunately, if their state does not have a partnership, they'll be prompted to pay $17.99 per year to access some of the same information that you all are getting for free. So creating an account is very, very simple. Again, you put in your school email address, you create a password, you identify yourself as a North Carolina educator, and it really is that simple. Check your email inbox. You should have an email from us. You click on a link, it activates your account, and you're in. You will know that you have done that successfully because it will take you back to the home page of the Lexile and Quantile Hub. And up here in the upper left-hand corner, you will see, this is my account, so it shows my home state of Kansas. You will see the North Carolina postal abbreviation and the silhouette of North Carolina in the upper left-hand corner. That is your cue that you are logged in as a North Carolina educator. And again, you have all the bells and whistles. If you don't see that postal abbreviation and that silhouette in the upper left-hand corner, you may not be logged in as an educator, and you may be missing some things because we also allow parents to create accounts as well. And that's great, but parents have very different needs than do educators. If you want to make sure you're getting all of the access you can possibly get, look to make sure that you see that North Carolina logo and abbreviation up there in the upper left-hand corner. And if you don't, double check that you're logged in and logged in correctly. Very quickly here, let me point you to where the support is within the hub. If you look over here on the left-hand side in the left-hand navigation bar, clear down at the very bottom, and it's kind of hard to see, there is a link that says, if you click that link, it takes you to our support community. And this is a great place to get any questions you may have answered about a variety of different topics. If you have questions about your account, this is the place to go. If you have questions about individual tools, this is also a place to go. And even if you have deeper questions about what do these measures mean, or how are they calculated, or things like this, the support community really is kind of that one-stop shop for finding the information that you're looking for. And if in the rare circumstance it's not able to answer, you may notice down here at the bottom of this screenshot, there are some buttons you can click on so you can submit a help desk ticket that you can see and get some clarification from the folks here at Metametrics about the question that you may have. Also within the support community are those quick start guides that I mentioned earlier. Again, think of these like a conference handout. Again, they're for each tool, and they are a great place for you to kind of get a crash course in how each tool works. So you can go in and not have to poke around and figure it out on your own, but get a little bit of direction about what to do with the tool and how to make it work. And so with that, we're going to click over and actually demo a couple of these tools for you and see that work. Before I turn things over to Kate to start with the first tool, I do want to remind you all, we also have a getting started chart trying to streamline this a little bit. And I believe Kate put the link there in the chat to this. This is a very simple Google Doc, but it identifies each tool. It gives you a direct link to that tool, but also a direct link to the quick start guide so that you don't have to dig through the support community looking for it. You can go exactly to the tool you're looking for and get to that quick start guide so that you can access the tool as quickly as possible and get started from there. So at this point, I am going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to turn things over to Kate and let her introduce two tools on the Lexile side. First being our most popularly used tool, the Find a Book tool, and the second being our text analyzer. So Kate, over to you.
Thanks, Matt. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you are having a great day. As Matt said, my name is Kate Treadway. I'm going to share a couple of tools with you that help on the Lexile side today. So we're just going to go ahead and get started with our well-known Find a Book tool. So here I am inside my Hub homepage, and I'm going to click on my Find a Book tool. This tool, especially for elementary school teachers, helps you to find, or your students to find just right books for independent reading, or for teachers to find titles for students and to give them suggestions. So I do want to show you the different ways that we have to search for books on the Find a Book tool. First, we have a quick search where you can put title or author in if you know a book that you're looking for specifically, and maybe you want to get a Lexile measure on that book. You can type that in right here and quickly get an answer. We also can search by grade level. You can select a grade level, and you can also use these qualifiers, easy, just right, or difficult for that grade level to kind of zoom in even more on some really great reading material for your students. You can also search by measure if you know your students' measure from their previous test they may have taken. You can also do a range if you want to use their Lexile range where they're going to be really focused in and reading well. We also have search by interest, which is great because we all can think of those students we have who kind of hone in on one interest and really love to read about that. So we can choose an interest. We can also, once we choose an interest, choose subcategories within that interest to get even more specific. We have, you can choose series books, books for students who are ELL learners, even award-winning books as well. We can also search by down here in our advanced educator search. We can search by our early reader indicators. So these are really great for those beginning readers who are kind of moving systematically through those different stages of beginning reading. You can really zero in and get them books that they need that exactly complement their needs at the time. We also have our different Lexile codes that you can search by as well. So we have all these different ones. Of particular interest might be the high-low. Those are our books that are high interest and low readability for students who may be struggling. For any books that are 660L and above, we're going to have these upper level indicators, which is sentence length and word frequency. So you can choose your qualifiers there to search by as well, as you know your student and will be able to choose which they might be using. So we have lots of different ways to search, as you can see. I do just want to quickly show you what it looks like when you do open up a book on here. So I did search the hobbies, the sports area. You can see I got over 21,000 books. So I have filters over here that I can use. So if I have a student who is interested in sports, but maybe just kind of starting out with decoding, I want to choose a book that way. So I'm going to make kind of like a middle level demand for decoding. I can apply that filter and get some books about hobbies inside of that filter. So when I click on a book, Find a Book is going to show me a lot of different information. I'll just go through that really quickly. It's going to give you a quick synopsis of the book. It's going to give you some vocabulary words that may need to be front-loaded, taught to your students before you read this book with them. It also will give you kind of a good, quick, as a teacher, idea of the background knowledge they may need for this book. And it's also going to show you the early reading indicators for each of those books. As this is a 280L measured book, it does have our early reading indicators, and you can see those right there on the side. It's also going to show you some similar books or books in this series that you can use. In case your student falls in love, you can choose some other ones. And you can find the book on Amazon and also in the library. So when you click find in library, it's going to take you to a library geographically near you, which is kind of a neat little thing to be able to find that book in the library for your student. Also, if you find a book you know your student is going to love, you can choose to add it to your bookshelf and save it that way to save that title. So that's a quick look at our English Find a Book tool. Let me just toggle backwards. If you are interested in finding Spanish books, you can toggle this up in the upper right-hand corner over to Spanish, and it will give you some measures to search, some ways to search for Spanish Lexile measures, books that are in Spanish, and you can search the same way with our different qualifiers for searching for books in Spanish. So we do have that as well. Quickly, I just want to show you also, so that was our Find a Book tool. And the second tool I want to show you today is the Lexile Text Analyzer, which as a teacher, you may have a book that you're not sure of the Lexile measure or an article that you want to share with your students. This text analyzer allows you to put in up to 500 words You can copy and paste in there or upload a text file, and it will give you a Lexile measure. So you would upload your text into this box. You would click Analyze, and it will give you the Lexile measure of the text that you've entered. With your educator account, you get 50. You get to put in 50 measures per month, which is probably more than enough if you're using it for articles that you're going to teach with your class. You will also be aware that you're going to get a range of Lexile. You won't get an exact measure just because it's not getting the whole text, so it's going to give you a range in which that the text that you input falls. Just a little note to avoid putting student writing into the analyzer, because they'll give you an inaccurate range, especially with student writing. A lot of times we have missing punctuation or other things that maybe aren't perfect, as is normal as they're learning to be writers, and you'll not get an accurate Lexile measure for that. Plus, the Lexile analyzer is for giving kind of a reading measure, not a writing measure. So that's just something you'll want to avoid. We also, as in with Find a Book, have the ability to toggle over to Spanish in our upper right-hand corner again. And you can input Spanish text, maybe from a Spanish article that you find, into the analyzer and get a Spanish Lexile measure. One more quick feature of the text analyzer is you will have a list in history, that the button over here next to text, that will kind of store the measures that you've looked up before. So you can always go back and look at text that you've analyzed before. So that is, those are two of our tools in the hub, the Find a Book and the text analyzer. And I'm going to pass the baton over to Dave, and he is going to share some of the other tools that we have in our hub.
Thank you, Kate. Took me a second to find the mute button. So I'm back here on the hub, which Kate's been showing you, and she looked very familiar. I'm at the top of the hub. As you can see, all these green tiles here are the Lexile tools that are available to you. To get to the Quantile tools, which they're all grouped together, they always show up in the bottom half of that home screen of the hub, and there are all these blue tiles. And right now there are 8 Quantile tools on the hub that we can choose from, and we're going to look at 2 of those today. One is the Math Skills Database, and the other is a Quantile Teacher Assistant. So, looking at these tools, you can see that they're all 8 here. I want to do the bottom left here is the Math Skills Database, and the reason I want to start with Math Skills Database is really pretty simple and straightforward. The Math Skills Database is really the heart, or the core, if you will, of the hub tools for mathematics and for the quantile measures. If you understand how the Math Skills Database works, it helps to feed the teacher assistant that we're going to look at later, as well as the Summer Math Challenge, the Math at Home, and several of the other things that are in here are really fed from the data that's in the Math Skills Database. So it's the heart of how do we use quantile measures for mathematics to help our students and meet them where they're at, to provide that just-in-time instruction and scaffolding or extension that they might need. So if you click on Math Skills Database, and it takes a second here and it loads up, it looks pretty simple, pretty straightforward. You can do a keyword search. It is a tab that's up here. I will tell you, I rarely use it because if you don't get the keywords typed in pretty close to accurate to exactly the way it is in there, it doesn't always return the results you're looking for. I find quite often that the standard search is probably the most useful way for me to use the Math Skills Database. And so that's the way we're going to look at it today. You have the drop-down menus here, and you're going to start with those. You want to look at, for example, North Carolina, by just scrolling down. They're going to be alphabetical and finding North Carolina, and I'm looking through here, and you click on that, and then you can select any of the grade levels in North Carolina, all the way up through high school and even high school courses. For today, I want to look at grade 3, just so we can look at one grade. Now, there is a drop down here that's called Goal, which you really can think of as being your content standards. For most states, the word standards is probably a more accurate description of this dropdown, but goal is what's used in here. And when you click on that, you will see a list of all of the standards for third grade in North Carolina right here in this dropdown. But before I select one of those, I want to show you another feature of the Math Skills Database. It's really kind of neat and kind of this nice way to take an 80,000-foot view, if you will, of the content of any particular grade level. And that is by leaving this as all goals selected on the Math Skills Database and clicking search, I actually bring up that list of all of the content standards for third grade mathematics in North Carolina. And they're all paired with a QSC, or a quantile skill and concept. Now, the QSC ID is really just a database indicator. That doesn't really tell us anything about the difficulty relative to each other that the QSC might be. That's not the ID. The thing that tells us about how difficult or easy something might be in comparison to other topics or to a student's personal quantile measure is way over here on the right in this quantile measure. Those are the numbers we really want to look at. And you might also notice if you just very quickly scan down through here, you'll see that some standards appear more than once. And what that means is they tie to more than one quantile skill and concept. Or you might see the same QSC also tied to more than one standard. And that's all because the QSCs were not written as a particular state's content. They are a generic, if you will, way of listing the K-12 content for anyone. And so when they get tied to various different sets of standards, they sometimes will be 1 to 2 or 2 to 1 and 3 to 1, and they'll be 1 to many in some cases. And so you'll see that link here. And this gives us a really quick overview of all of the content at a grade level, but perhaps the most useful feature of looking at it in this manner is being able to sort it. Obviously, you can sort by the state goal or the content standard number and find things quickly that way. You can also sort by QSC ID, but like I said, that's really just a database indicator. It doesn't really tell us much about the content. You can sort by description, but it's going to do an alphabetical sort. And so if you don't know what the QSC name is exactly, you might be a little off there. But the columns are most useful to sort from are usually the first one and the last two, because I can also sort by quantile measure. And now I can see all of the QSCs, all the quantile skills and concepts that are associated with standards in the third grade in the North Carolina standards. As you really quickly scroll down through here and look at the quantile, you can see that most of them are in the 2, 3, 400 range. That's that sweet spot for third grade mathematics. That's where the quantile measures tend to fall. Do we also have some stuff way below that, like the emerging mathematician 10Q? Absolutely. But this is probably something that, although it's tied to a standard, it's probably a part of that standard. It's a little piece of that standard. And it's really something that's a prerequisite type of review that's done in the class before we go on. You don't see a lot of things in that lower range. They get up to 200 pretty quickly. Likewise, you see some 600s down here at the bottom and even some 500s, or yeah, a couple 500s, a couple 600s. Those are really not the focus of sixth grade either, but they're touch on those sixth grade standards. And there are probably some things that I could look at to do some challenge, to do some extension to some of my students who maybe need a little extra challenge. And I can see the full breadth of all of the content in the North Carolina third grade standards by their QSC level. I can also then sort by the strand, or it's kind of the cluster for some of our standards is what they call them. It's the basic broad topics. And so I can look at things by broad topics. And again, this is not going to help me, this particular view. It's not going to help me figure out what am I going to teach in my math class on Monday morning to deal with how to multiply and to find area. But this is going to give me that big picture, that long-term view, that full year view of just exactly what's in here and where are the possible places where I might run into some issues because we're getting into some pretty high quantile measure stuff. But if I want to go to plan a particular lesson, I probably want to look at a particular topic. And I kind of scrolled through a little bit just to find one that would be a little more helpful. And I want to look at NC3, MD5, if I can scroll down. And this one is finding the area of rectangles with whole number sides. And so when I click just a single goal or standard, as it's typically called, and I click on it, it'll bring up the QSC or sometimes more than one QSCs that are associated with the standard. So now instead of looking at the full breadth of the third grade standards, I'm just looking at this one QSC. You can see it's worded slightly different than the standard, but still very much the same topic. Determining the area, here it says of rectangles, squares, and composite figures. Whereas here we're looking at area of rectangles as the standard itself. And now I got my QSC, and when I click on it, we go to something called the knowledge cluster for this Quantile skill and concept. And here's where the power of the Quantile tools really comes in. I can look here and see all the prerequisite skills, all the QSCs for topics that came before this, that a student needs to be able to understand and do in order to have the foundation for today's lesson. I can also see impending, what's coming next, what might be good for extensions. The supporting are kind of parallel topics. They're not prerequisite, they're not impending, but they're related topics that have similar requirements. I can look at these prerequisite QSCs for ideas for scaffolding for a student that maybe needs a little extra support, not to replace that core content for today's lesson, but maybe to help them achieve that content and fill in some of those gaps that'll help them. And the real power in that is really finding resources, but it's also very easy to overlook it on this knowledge cluster page. You see the big box with the knowledge cluster, you see the related standards, and you can see this QSC ties to more than one, but this little box in the middle just says resources can be easy to overlook, especially if you owned by Metametrics. These are freely available web-based resources. Some are full lesson plans, some are videos, some are games, some are just simple worksheets or practice exercises. There's all kinds of free resources in here tied to this QSC. And you can click on these, look at them. If you decide you'd like one of them, you can click on the plus sign over here at the far. There's also other, we don't have a lot of time today, really easy to overlook in this upper right-hand corner when you're in the Math Skills database is this resource center that you use to organize and share those links to those resources that you've decided you would like to put a check mark next to. So you can create groups of resources in there that you've selected and send them out and share them with parents or with students as a package of links that they can then access. And so it's a very, very quick way to access the content and find resources to support either core instruction or some of that scaffolding or enrichment, depending on what the student needs based on their individual quantile measure. So in addition to the Math Skills database, I want to show you one more tool. I'm going to go back to the main hub. Again, scroll down to the bottom till we get to the quantile tools. And I want to show you Teacher Assistant. And when I taking a minute to load. You notice, other than having the tabs at the top to be able to do a word search, it looks a lot like what we just saw. I can still go down and select North Carolina. I still can select third grade just like I did. I still have that list of content here. You might notice there is a difference. I don't have the all goals when I go into teacher assistant. I just have the goals themselves individually. So I'm going to go down here and go back down to 3MD5. I'm going to select that one. And here it all looks a lot like Math Skills database. So you're probably thinking, so how's this different? It's even got the resource center link up here, just like Math Skills database did. When I click search, here's where I see a difference. Now I have this different display at the bottom of my screen. It's very color coded. You can see it tells me if it shows up in yellow, that is something that is really when it shows up in yellow, that is something that is below the student's target quantile measure. Green is right in that sweet spot of 50 above or 50 below. And computer know what my student needs, and it doesn't. And that's really important to realize. The most important thing on this screen is right here in the middle of this slider. It starts out with defaulted measures based on historical records. It's all based on percentiles. It's all based on averages. It's not a particular student, but you can change this. So if you're working with a student who's got a little higher quantile measure, you can slide the bars higher and you can see the colors change and the screen changes to show differently. If you're working with something that's a little lower, you can slide a little lower and you see the colors change. And it'll help you decide, is this something that they should be ready for or something that they maybe need some more scaffolding for? And The reason I started with Math Skills Database, I mentioned that that was the heart of the math tools. If I click on any of these, I end up right in here at that knowledge cluster screen, just like we were looking at a few minutes ago. And so with that, I'm going to try to wrap up over to Matt to kind of bring us home. And I hear we've had some problems with my audio, and I apologize. And I'll pass this over, and Matt, I will turn it over to you.
Thanks, Dave, and many thanks to Kate as well, and thank you for both for sharing your reading and mathematics expertise, respectively, and helping us with that. I know, folks, this is a lot of information, and you're probably a little bit overwhelmed. Here in just a moment, I'll share with you where you can get some extra help from us. We know you're going to want some time to poke at these tools, play around with them, see what you like, see what you don't. But we want to be there to help you along the way as well. I do want to show you one last actual set of tools. Those are our grade level charts. You'll see we have one version for Lexile measures right here on my screen. I'll scroll down. You'll notice there's also a Quantile version of our grade level charts as well. These are really helpful tools in a couple of ways. And let me say, the functionality is exact the same on both the Lexile side, the Quantile side. The only difference is, of course, in Lexiles, you're looking at reading performance. On the Quantile side, you're dealing with mathematics performance. I'm going to go into the grade level charts, and I'm going to show you a little bit of what we see here, and I'll give you two hypothetical scenarios to try to help you understand the power and utility of this particular tool. You'll notice here it kind of defaults to your end of year testing, but you're able to play around with several things here. And let me give you a scenario to start. Many of you are probably dealing with open house, back to school night, whatever it may be called in your area. And many of you are probably gearing up for your conferences coming up here in the near future. And one of the things I can often remember parents asking me when I was a classroom, well, how is my kid doing compared to the typical fourth grader, as an example? And what these grade levels do is help us to begin to answer that question. So you can see here what I've done, and I'm just going to go with that scenario and use these pull down menus left to identify fourth grade. And I want the time of year, I want to set that for beginning of the year, right where we are now. And you can see here that what it's telling me is that the 50th percentile student, and this is nationally, across hundreds of thousands of students across the United States who take tests linked to the Lexile framework, it's telling us that middle 50th percentile kiddo has a Lexile measure of 735L. So in my mind, as I'm answering that parent's question, how's my kid doing compared to other fourth graders? If I know that child is below a 735L in terms of his or her reading measure, that gives me some insight. You'll also notice that at the 90th percentile, a fourth grader is at about a 10L. You notice there's also, excuse me, over here on the left, a slider. I can slide things down a little bit. So if I know that this particular child is not reading that high, I can give that parent additional information. Well, the student at the 10th percentile being a 415L, and a student at the 25th percentile is reading a 570L. So, as a former teacher myself, I remember being asked that question often. How's my kid doing? compared to everyone else in the class or everyone else in the grade. The grade level charts tool, again, both on the reading side, Lexile, and mathematics side, Quantile, give us additional information on how we might answer that question based on numbers. Now, certainly, you're going to give your own opinion. How does that child perform? How does that child do in class? But this gives you a little bit more statistical, numerical data, if you would, if you will, that allows you to explain that a little bit differently. But let me give you a second scenario that might help as well. And you notice as I pull down these menus, I can light up different times of the year simultaneously. So let's imagine that you are that fourth grade teacher, and you're thinking in your own head, well, how much growth should I expect in that child over the course of the school year? You can see here, just as an example, that 10th percentile student comes into fourth grade with a Lexile measure of 415L, but by the end of the year is going to finish fourth grade with a Lexile measure at 555L. So you can see here that that child we would expect at fourth grade is going to grow, typically, again, all the caveats there, typically grow by about 140 Lexiles. And what you'll know when you play with this is that different grade levels will have different ranges and different numbers. And that, of course, growth is different at each grade level. It's even different at each percentile. You'll notice the amount of growth from a percentile student is a little different than the growth from a 25th percentile student. That 10th percentile student grew 140 Lexiles. 25th percentile student only grew 130. And we see that nationally. So using the grade level charts is a great way to kind of give yourself, as an instructor, a bit of a goal for a child. We want to do the best we can with each and every child. But if you want to see what is quote unquote average or quote unquote typical, so that you have it to aim for, the grade level charts is a great way to do that. So I would encourage you all, poke around in the grade charts, poke around and Find a Book, Analyzer, Math Skills Database, Quantile Teacher Assistant. All of these tools are fantastic and really can help us inform what we do in the classroom with students each and every day. However, we know going forward, you all are going to have questions. And so our team, Dave, Kate, Jane, myself, every Monday, late afternoon, and every Friday, right around lunchtime, we host what we call our office hours. It's an online meeting just like this. You don't need to stay the entire time. Pop in, ask your question, get the information that you need, and pop right back out and get on with your day. So we would really strongly encourage you all, play with the tools. I have a lot of metaphors here. Kick the tires, play in the sandbox, pick your metaphor. See what's there and see what's possible. And then as you have questions or you need additional information, please do come visit us and let us know how we can help. Again, we're old classroom teachers ourselves, I should say seasoned classroom teachers ourselves. We're here to help. That's our job, and we want to provide that to all of you. So with that, it looks like we have a few minutes left. We'll check the chat, we'll check the Q&A, see if there's anything else that we need to talk about. Feel free, post your questions there, and we are happy to respond.
So the only thing that I am seeing on my end is folks who are wanting us to email out those Zoom links. and I will take care of that. Anyone who's registered, whether they attended today or not, you'll receive all the links that our Metametrics folks have shared today. That'll come out tomorrow. I'm not seeing any other questions or concerns. I don't know if Matt or Dave or Kate, if you're seeing anything different.
I do see one other question, Beth, about the office hours, and we'll make sure we include that and give you guys information so you can email that out as well. That's all I'm seeing.
Okay.
I think it's in one of those links that you were going to share, but
Yes, it is. It is placed in the chat.
All right. Well, with that, I'm going to say a big thank you to Matt, Kate, and Dave. The Hub really is a one-stop shop resource that's free because of our partnership with Metametrics. We hope our teachers have been able to explore the Hub with you and have found value in this resource. We thank you all for joining us today. A link to the recording will be emailed out to everyone that has registered, whether they logged in or not. And you'll be able to forward that link to any team members at school that you would like to share this resource with. As a quick note, it will come through as a Gov delivery email, which sometimes hides in your junk mail. So if you are hopeful for these links, I will do it tomorrow, but look for a Gov delivery. That'll be your 2-line. I got in trouble last year. I sent too many emails and got locked out. So this is our solution. Unless our folks from Metametrics have anything else to say, I'm going to sign us off.
No, thank you, Beth. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Have a wonderful rest of the school year. Stay safe out there. We know weather's coming your direction.
All right. Well, thank you again, everyone. Good evening.